But what I realize is that when people are well-meaning, when they say that you have to leave your comfort zone, what they are really saying is you have to leave your complacency zone, which is true for everybody. So I put in the work of actually sitting down and defining comfort zone and complacency zone. And I think, my definitions are what we all would say, yes, that's true. And then we can move from there to do our strategizing and understanding and all of that. So for me, the comfort zone are the people, the places, the situations and activities and skill sets where you feel comfortable and competent.
Hello, and welcome to episode 132 of the Quiet and Strong podcast, especially for introverts. I'm your host, David Hall, and the creator of quietandstrong.com. This is a weekly podcast dedicated to understanding the strengths and needs of introverts. Introversion is not something to fix, but to be embraced. Normally, we will air each episode on a Monday. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite platform. Leave a review. That would mean a lot to me. Tell a friend about the podcast. Help get the word out there that introversion is a beautiful thing. Summer Turner, owner of Business Breakthrough Training LLC, helps introverts through strategy coaching and by collaborating with HR and on diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives to eradicate the unconscious bias against introverts in the workplace. She has a degree in psychology, and her background includes adult learning theory, instructional design, and creativity training. And of course, she is an introvert. All right. Welcome to the Quiet and Strong podcast, Summer. Summer, it's so great to have you on today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. We are going to get into some great work that you do around introversion and coaching. But I always like to start with you. Tell us a little bit about your journey of discovering you were introvert to now helping other introverts.
Thank you. Just like probably every other introvert you've talked with, I thought there was something wrong with me. My teachers thought there was something wrong with me. My parents thought there was something wrong with me because I was introverted and I was also highly sensitive. So, for example, in the first day of first grade, which was my first school experience, I was so overwhelmed by the number of kids and the activity and everybody doing something different and the lights and just everything that I started trembling all over. And they had to put me in a room where an empty room, and they called my parents. So, they just thought there was something wrong with me. But throughout my life, I learned to cope. And later in life, I realized that coping is not the same as living. And so that's when I started getting a little bit radical. But it really took Susan Cain's book, Quiet, for me to have a big breakthrough because I used to teach college and I was prepared for that because in the 8th grade, I took an elective course in public speaking because it was the last elective offered. And after the first day, everybody went to the office and dropped the class except the school leaders and me because I was too scared to go to the office. So I actually was voted by the end of the semester or whatever it was, most improved speaker. And those skills they're in my skill set and they have served me very well. So I did find teaching. I taught at a college. I taught at the ESL school at the college, and then I was recruited to teach a writing processes class for freshmen. And so that was fine. And then life stuff happened, and I ended up spending years sitting in my office by myself doing book editing and ghostwriting. And then in 2012, that urge to teach started welling up inside of me. It had been a lot of years since I taught or really been out in front of people or done anything much except sit in my office and work and not talk to anybody. So I do what I teach people how to do. I strategized how to move forward comfortably. How do I get from my office by myself to teaching something somewhere? I didn't know what I was being called to do, but it was an inward call. It was very strong. So I thought, well, maybe I'll start a seminar business in business writing. That sounds good. And I needed to get my teaching mojo back, get that skill set active. So I joined Toastmasters and I joined improv. And I very quickly got back up to speed. So that's what I did. And then I joined a very large chamber of commerce here, and they have very large networking events. And that was hell for me as an introvert. I didn't know I was an introvert at that point. I just knew I was dreading it. And so I'd go to these networking events, and I started noticing that while I am just feeling the life draining out of me and cannot even remember the name of my business, literally had to have my business card right up in my purse where I could see it because I was so much going on. I could not remember anything. But I noticed there were some people that as the evening wore on, they were shining more and more and they were having a good time. And one of them was like standing next to me, bopping to the music and saying, I've been waiting for this all day. And I'm like, what? I've been dreading it all day. So that point, my sister mentioned that, you might be an introvert and there's this book I'm going to send you. And it was Susan Cain's book, Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking. And I went, oh my gosh, that was a huge, huge aha. I was so impressed by it. And it was such a big aha for me. And as I was looking around then in these networking events, I saw other people who looked like me, who were just getting drained. They were, hiding in the bathroom, whatever, and trying to leave early, or just what I would do sometimes, give up and just go for the food. And so I thought, this is big. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to teach. So that's how that came about.
Wow, yeah, so many people have been on this show, and so many people I've met and read about thought that something was wrong, you know? And you are not the first guest to mention Susan Cain. Her book is really helped so many people, and her famous TED Talk. And I highly recommend, her book Quiet. What was the main message that really resonated with you from her book?
The big aha came from the fact that it's biological. These are biological differences. We're not maladapted. The scale used to be from extroversion to neuroticism. So we were
Right.
considered the neurotics that were maladapted to the world the way it's supposed to be. So that was huge and very empowering for me. And so that was the big motivation. And I still have people that I work with who say, I just thought there was something wrong with me when they couldn't handle the workplace, in the open office plan, things like that. They still think there's something wrong with them. When they eventually quit, they don't tell HR or anybody, the reason they're quitting is because there's something wrong with me. They just give some generic reason, so nothing was changing.
Right.
And that hurt my heart. That's something, they're suffering unnecessarily, and I can't stand that.
Me neither. And that's why we do what we do, right, Summer?
Mhm.
It's
That's
we
right.
people have great strengths, and with those strengths comes needs. I love that you brought up that it's biological. It comes to us naturally. It's not something to fix. It's something that if we understand it, that we are deep thinkers, or in some cases you mentioned that you were also highly sensitive. Some people are really deep feelers and deep thinkers. If we can understand that, we have great gifts, but unfortunately too many people don't understand how to get the most out of their gifts. And also with those gifts come certain needs too.
Mhm. Right.
So definitely with the strengths, what would you say is a strength, or sometimes I call them superpowers, that you have as an introvert?
I have learned to embrace my hypersensitivity because, as an introvert, we're naturally deep listeners, and we tend to tune into nonverbal cues to kind of see what's going on with somebody. I do this with groups too. I work well with groups. I kind of see the whole group dynamic and the changes in it. But I also am very intuitive. I get a lot of intuitive hits that are really valuable when it comes to coaching, especially.
Okay. And how'd you get into coaching? When did you start that?
Kind of happened, hmm, naturally maybe. I really don't know. It's just been a process of, people, mostly people reach out to me, and I wrote a lot of blog posts that people liked, and I built my email list and things like that. And then I wasn't going to really do workplace training. I realized that I wanted to do at that point one-on-one coaching. And I used to give seminars at my Chamber of Commerce, it was one of the benefits that we can do. And so, and I would just invite people, these were introverted women mostly, and a lot of them were post corporate who were transitioning to becoming coaches and consultants themselves. And they were post corporate because they really couldn't handle the corporate extrovert favored environment anymore. So when they started realizing it's because they were introverts, and when you go into business for yourself, everything's on you. You can't like hide in an office anymore and let somebody else do this talking. You have to get out there and do something. And one of my big strengths, according to the Clifton Strengths Finders, is that I'm strategic. And the blurb they wrote to explain it was what I always called the worry gene. I mean, I had the worry gene in space, like what if, and then mitigate all of those things, like plan A, plan B, plan C, but that was, they said, you're always asking, what if, coming up with strategies. Now I call it a gift. That's what I help people do is from their own comfort zone, strategize ways to accomplish whatever that goal is. So that as an introvert brain friendly way. So, yeah.
Yeah. I also have benefited from Clifton's strengths. And in my top five is analytical, which is really similar to strategic. And, I don't think that you or I would have those gifts if we weren't an introvert, because there's a lot of power in being able to think deeply. We naturally go into our heads more often than not. And, we're thinking through things. And what would the world be like if there wasn't someone that's thinking about what if this, what if that? Absolutely need that gift. Or in my case, like you said, I always have a plan, and I have a backup plan and maybe even a backup plan to that. So I'm usually pretty calm, and that's why, and sometimes people think, well, aren't you worried about this? I'm like, don't you know me? I have a plan, and if that doesn't work out, I have another one. So, and
Yes.
because I'm always thinking. So,
Yes. It's like when doing presentations, I always have plan A, B, C, D, E, and F. And then when I get there, something will go wrong, but it'll be something I could not have anticipated. Now, if it was something I should have anticipated, I would be very mad at myself. But since I have control for all of those things, when something does go wrong, I just laugh and roll with it. It's like, well, I could
yeah,
have predicted that, and then I'm relaxed and calm, so I can think on my feet how to solve it, what to do about it, how to work around it. So it's all about staying calm, which is kind of our home base with the parasympathetic nervous system. We need to stay in that place.
right, right. You talk a lot about the comfort zone. Tell us
Hmm.
about that. What does that mean to you, to the comfort zone, especially as it relates to introverts or extroverts?
Yeah, that is my big theme now because when I first started learning about all this and helping people, I would see all of these Facebook memes and LinkedIn memes about how you must go outside your comfort zone to be successful. Nothing happens inside your comfort zone. And there always be this like picture of something really scary, like somebody jumping from one cliff to another. And that was quite alarming to me. and to a lot of introverts who just when they come to me, they're very discouraged, and they would have coaches sometimes who told them the same thing. The more it scares you, the more you need to do it. Well, the way we're wired biologically, we need to stay in that calm place. What's scary to us, extroverts call it excitement, extreme excitement, and their brains actually need that. They need to do that. Okay. But for us, it's paralyzing. So I started thinking about, what I realized is that, yeah, in society, it's still kind of that's the right way. You jump into you have a thought, you jump into action, fall on your face, you get up, you figure out the obstacles along the way. But we're more the thinkers and planners. So that's, we would be like, I could have seen that person was going to fall on their face, So, and I would have mitigated that. And I wish I could have told him, here's what you do so that doesn't happen. But we're not like that. So, but what I realize is that when people are well meaning, when they say that you have to leave your comfort zone, what they are really saying is you have to leave your complacency zone, which is true for everybody. So I put in the work of actually sitting down and defining comfort zone and complacency zone. And I think, my definitions are what we all would say, yes, that's true. And then we can move from there to do our strategizing and understanding and all of that. So for me, the comfort zone are the people, the places, the situations and activities and skill sets where you feel comfortable and competent. That's true for introverts and for extroverts. And the complacency zone is a state of hiding in order to maintain the status quo as a way of feeling safe instead of moving forward into the unknown. That is
Right.
true. To be successful, we need to leave that place. Everybody does.
Yeah. I like how you make that distinction.
I think it's important. I think it's really important. So so I actually give my clients a comfort zone map so they can identify their own particular people, places, situations, activities, and skill sets where they feel comfortable and competent. And the extroverts map for their comfort zone is going to look very different. In fact, is probably going to be the opposite things. And I also have my clients on the outside of that map. Is the map is like a circle with circles inside. The outside is they write all the things that they dread and hate and just really can't do. And every time I see one of those and every time I do one myself, those things are what's inside the extrovert's comfort zone. Those are the things they enjoy doing and need to do. So we feel like, that we're having to do things the extrovert way because that's the right way, because that's how the world is set up, especially the work world. But so I'm saying, not really going to work. You can fake extroversion, but you're not going to shine. People are not going to trust you because you're not being authentic. And we're hardwired to sort of sense something's off with somebody. They're not being authentic. I don't trust them.
Yeah.
So we need to operate from inside our comfort zone. And one thing that bugs me is that some people say, just suck it up, put on your big girl or big boy extrovert pants, do the thing, and then recover from the trauma later. That kind of hurts my heart. So I would say, like, okay, you can do that, but can you do it every day? Can you sustain it? Do you feel good doing it? Is this how you want to live, or are you just coping? So it's a coping thing. And as I've learned in my life, coping's not the same as living, and life's too short.
Yeah, we don't
So
want to cope.
yeah.
Or
So
just cope, I guess I should say.
just cope.
Def
Yeah.
like, definitely wanna thrive and have all the success and all that good stuff.
Exactly. So, and this is where introvert expert coaches can help people to kind of identify what those items are and then strategize how to get them. Whatever that goal is or that thing you're being asked to do, strategize from things inside your comfort zone how to do it. Now, on my map, I do have a dancing on the rim zone, and that's where you have 1 foot out and 1 foot in. You're not super comfortable with it, or maybe you haven't done it in a long time, but you do have the skill set to do it, whatever that is. So you're going to strategize how to make that more comfortable, how to bring that more into inside your comfort zone. So for me, it was the presentations, to get back out in the world and do presentations when I hadn't done it like since the 8th grade. But I knew I had the skills. I knew I had the skills. I knew how to, I knew I so much about presentations that I knew how to do. And so for me, I realized that if I'm going to do this seminar business, I need to get my teaching mojo back, get comfortable being up in front of people and presenting and all of that. So I thought about it and I realized that to bring that more into my comfort zone, for me, I need to join Toastmasters and join improv. And I did. And the cool thing about Toastmasters is that you start as a guest. You don't even have to speak. You start going as a guest. And then when you join, pretty soon, everybody who joined is joined there because they're freaked out about speaking. So they've all been where you were. And after a while, I quickly got my mojo back and all of that, but they became central to my comfort zone. They were my safe people. So if I had to give a presentation or something that wasn't one of the types of speeches you're supposed to give in Toastmasters, they would meet with me at some other location so I could practice it, and then they would give me good feedback. So they were my safe people. So that was that way. They and Toastmasters and the teaching all came right back into my comfort zone. So that's a way of like realizing when you're dancing on the rim, you can do it. How can I do it more comfortably? That can work for you.
Yeah, I love how you distinguish that, the comfort zone and the complacency zone. And I think that public speaking is a good example for me too. Is I would have thought of it as being out of my comfort zone, years ago. But what I really learned was what I needed as an introvert, my strengths as an introvert, whether that I need to prepare for my public speech, that I need probably to take a break after. I'm probably not going to fully work the crowd beforehand. And all of this is normal. So, I could have stayed complacent and thought, well, this is scary to me. But instead, working in my comfort zone, as you're phrasing it, is really learning what are my strengths as an introvert and what do I need. And it's nice. I know some people might still get nervous with public speaking, but I just don't. I because I know that I'm passionate about the thing that I'm going to be speaking about. I have something to say, I've done the preparation, and it's
Yeah.
going to be good.
Now, Toastmasters teaches you what they call making your butterflies fly in formation, which I think is a good image.
Yeah.
And and if you have now I have done like when I was teaching ESL at this college, sometimes I would teach the same thing over and over, year after year. And I realized if I don't have any butterflies at all, it's just going to be kind of meh, you know. So I do value the few butterflies. If it's too many, it's like, okay, what is it that's freaking me out? I'm going to strategize that away. I'm going to make that not a problem somehow. And then as I tell people, when it's and here she is and you go into the center of the stage, you shouldn't feel like you're bungee jumping or just jumping off a cliff. The thought that would go into my mind was like, I just wish I'd never been born. I just wish I'd never been born. That's really freak out, to where I just have enough butterflies where I feel like instead of jumping off a cliff, I'm just stepping from the curb down into the street. That little bit of it's go time. Here we go. This is it. And that's my go energy. That's what actually helps me to do the performance and not just be blah.
Yeah. And you brought up something else. So, speaking of public speaking, and you also mentioned Susan Cain, I watched a webinar at work with Susan Cain. It's been a few years now, but it was very interesting because after the webinar, that topic came up and someone was talking about it. And I'm pretty sure if I got to know her, she probably was an introvert. And immediately she was getting all this advice like, to be a good public speaker, just do it. Just, all the things that we're talking about that's more of the extrovert way. And just what you were saying is often when we're getting coaching, it's probably going to be more effective from someone that is like us. Like, I know that I'm going to learn a lot more from probably from introverts than extroverts. Or if I'm getting coached by an extrovert, they really need to understand what I need as an introvert. I think that's really key is because if an if an extrovert's giving introvert advice that doesn't match, it could be not helpful and it could even be harmful.
It is harmful. I had one client who came to me. She was kind of a basket case because she had a coach who was an extroverted man. She was a sensitive female introvert, and he had this marketing. He had his own like roadmap, his own steps. And when he mentioned something that you have to do this certain thing, she was like, "I can't do that. I just can't do it." And she wasn't really thinking in terms of she's an introvert. She just knew she could not do that, and he started shaming her.
Ugh.
He started shaming her and said, well, you, because it was his thing, he was all about his steps, his magical steps. And when you're just, she was being a difficult client for him from his point of view. If you're not going to do the step, then forget it. You just can't be successful. You have to do this. And so then a friend of hers that was my client, mentioned me, and so she reached out to me and she says, okay, I get it now. He was an extrovert, had his own thing, and he didn't know about introverts and extroverts, and couldn't accommodate for those differences. And so, but he was shaming to her, so I had to kind of undo all of that.
Yeah, yeah. I hate to hear stories like that because we need to understand what our gifts are and be proud. Just a little bit ago, you mentioned, that we shouldn't be faking it. What do you think of that advice when people just say, fake it till you make it?
Yeah, you can do that, but again, you're not going to make it really that way. At some point, you do have to find something real inside yourself and come from that. But um, if it's like my dancing on the rim, that's very different than faking it till you make it. It's that you are uncomfortable doing it. It's not right inside your comfort zone, but there's something you have that allows you to do it. You tap into that, you strategize and do whatever that is until this is more comfortable for you and yours. So, but just faking it, again, you're not going to shine. So you're not going to, the extrovert who does that same thing is going to be the one getting the promotion or getting the business, getting the clients, and and you're not living an authentic life. Is that how you want to live? It basically doesn't work. It's just like when people say things like pretend your audience is naked. Well, that's a very hostile act. When that energy is going out, it's going to come right back at you. It's just like you can do that, but it's not going to work. It's not helpful advice.
No. How do you help your clients find their authentic selves?
Well, I think once they realize that their traits that they thought were weaknesses are really their strengths, then they start to operate from those as strengths. So, people say, "Oh, I just can't seem to get my thoughts together in meetings because this extrovert's running their mouth and there's too many people here and their energies are coming at me and the lights are too bright." And so you start to think that I can't contribute in meetings. I'm not a valuable employee. But once you realize your biology and that you need to, when all that sensory data is coming at you, you can't think, it's normal, then you can strategize how to see it as a strength that my I am a deep thinker and my thoughts are valuable to this organization. Well, that extrovert is running their mouth with ideas that are just they're thinking of it as they're saying it, which is normal for them. I'm seeing all the ways that won't work or needs to be tweaked. But by the time I get my thoughts together, they've moved on to another topic. So, but my thoughts are important. And this initiative, this idea isn't going to work as it is. They need to hear my thoughts. You can start working ahead of time by letting your leader, your manager know that, I am an introvert. I need quiet in order to get my thoughts together. So could I please have the agenda the day before so that I can contribute more in the meetings? So you prepare. So you start to see that you do have strengths. Just take whatever you think is a weakness, which would be a strength maybe for an extrovert, and what's the opposite? Whatever that opposite is, that's your strength. And then strategize how to make that work in your life or your workplace or wherever.
So what's your advice as far as being heard in meetings as a deep thinker, as an introvert?
Again, if you don't know what the topic is and it just goes blam, here it is, then yeah, you're not gonna that's not your place. That's the extrovert's place. And so that's what I like about the DEI initiatives now, diversity, equity, and inclusion, because people are a little more sensitive now to other people's needs, and everybody's wired differently. I don't think they're yet addressing the introvert extrovert thing enough because it's huge. I mean, we're pretty much 50-50 on, percent one side or the other of the spectrum. So it does need to be, introverts do need to be accommodated. And that's really the leader's responsibility to be a good leader. They need to bring in, an expert on introversion and help the workplace, help the team see their differences as strengths, kind of a thing. But meanwhile, you can you can talk to your manager, and you can also start educating the people around you. Like, I like to say, if somebody says, oh, we need to do this, I need you to do this, you can say, well, I'm brain wired as an introvert, and so to do that I need such and such. And that's a conversation starter that gets them starting to think, oh, what does that mean, brain wired as an introvert? What's all involved in that, and what am I? And you can have a good conversation about it. But really, I think it needs to be more at the training level, and more like workplace wide, organization wide, for introverts to thrive in those situations. And leaders better listen to the introverts. I have had so many clients who transition from corporate tell me that number one problem in the workplace is the open office plan. Some of these people, very conscientious, loyal employees, would take work home because they couldn't concentrate at work. Then they get burned out because they're always in work mode. And then they quit. They just have to quit. They just can't do it. But they think there's something, wrong with them. So it's really, the leadership and organizations need to take this on board. And introverts need a door. They need a door with a sign saying "Do not disturb" if they want to get the best out of their introverts. So
Yeah, I think every introvert should have a door and a do not disturb sign for sometimes, We
yeah,
all need to, we need our space to think and to plan, to focus, or to be strategic as we both are. But, we need time to collaborate too, and there needs to be a good balance there.
yeah, that's kind of a myth that we're antisocial, and we're not. We're humans, and humans need social connections, but not when we're supposed to be working and thinking and doing our work, doing our best work. We
Yeah.
can't divide ourselves like that.
Yeah, like when we're talking about being strategic or being analytical, that doesn't happen in a noisy environment. You need some space. And then, we can thrive in the communication in one-on-one, small group, or even large group if we're prepared, like, insisting on
Yeah.
an agenda, like you said, or realizing, what, I need to think and then speak, and
Hmm.
just being ready for that conversation and engaging on in that conversation early on, so we're not it hasn't moved on by the time we're ready to say something.
Yeah. And I think that's where understanding the biology can really help too, because when we're introverts have a very long, complicated blood pathway to the brain, and it's going to these areas of deep thinking, making connections between things, long-term memory, all these inner processes. And it's not easy to go there when you have all this stuff from the outer world in your face, noises, music, people talking, and you can't pay attention to both at the same time. So that's why we really need that quiet to sort of go in there and go through that thinking process.
Yeah, and we need some space to be able to do that.
Yeah, and
And part of
adore.
this, the fact that we think and then speak, small talk can be a problem. In fact, we joked a little bit about it when we before we hit record, that you said you were making small talk, and it's kind of funny because I definitely wasn't as good at it as I am now, and it has been a struggle. How do people get more comfortable with small talk, and why do we need to even do small talk?
Yeah, we need to do it at times because we need, if you're in business or you're wanting to, if you're on a team or you're wanting to move up in your organization, you have to make connections with people. And so it is important. And I used to hate it and dread it, and especially when I go to these big chamber networking things. And I came to appreciate it because I realized that it is a way to vet people. Like, is this a good client possibility or referral partner? Is this somebody I even want to stand in front of for any length of time? So having that chit chat is important. And also just creating the social bonds, acquaintances, good, solid acquaintances you care about and who care about you is very important. So that chit chatting, that small talk is really good for creating those social bonds. So I started to value it. And what I realized, the problem with our introverts, the reason we hate it and resist it is because we want to stay in that deep place in our mind that I was just mentioning. And you're asking us to pull out and start noticing the world and the senses and the sights and the sounds and our own bodies. And we don't want to go there. But you have to do that to make these initial connections with people. So my biggest tip is to just, for this occasion, get out of your head and into your body. Really feel embodied in the present moment. Look around and just notice the decor. If you're at the event, notice the different people, how many men, how many women, the food, the music, listen to the music, and just get outside of your that deep place in your mind. And then those are topics you can talk about when you meet somebody. Say something about, the food if you're standing in the food line, and, or something that you noticed about the venue, or the music, and just have that little conversation. And you'll notice that if they're a pleasant person and they're responding, that you will actually get oxytocin flowing in your brain. That is the bonding hormone, also known as the love hormone. That is a good feeling. So you can enjoy having this chit chat when you get that going. If you're caring about them in the conversation, they're a nice person, and they seem to be caring about you and asking you good questions. And then either, you want to go deeper with this person or not, but it was really nice chatting with you, and then go on, to the next person. But we do need to build these relationships, and the small talk is a great way to do it. I also advise in presentations, you don't need to do this apparently, but I advise if you're scared of public speaking before an audience with a capital A, you go down to the doorway before. You've already prepared, you've been there an hour before, everything's set up, everything's tested, so far everything's working. And you go down to the doorway and greet people at the door. And I first resisted this because it was very, it was uncomfortable, a little dancing on my rim of the comfort zone. But I thought, well, I know how to stick out my hand and say, "Hi, I'm Summer." So that was a skill that I focused on doing, just stick out my hand and say, "Hi, I'm Summer Turner." And people coming in, then you kind of have that small talk, chit chat, something you notice about them, or and I again, we make connections between things. It's natural. And so I would notice I some chit chat talk with somebody else came up with a hobby or something, I made my jewelry, or whatever. Then another person coming in says something about they have a jewelry store. I hooked them up right then and there. I said, "Oh, you want to talk to so and so?" You start making these connections. And so they feel more comfortable and welcomed. And once you get going and it's go time and you step off the curb into the street and it's go time, you're not speaking in front of an audience with a capital A. You're speaking in front of people that you have already met and bonded with. Got a little of that oxytocin love hormone going on.
Yeah, no, that's a
So,
great strategy. That's a great, and I have used that one before. That is a good strategy to connect ahead of time. And I think you hit on some really important things because we've already said, there's a myth that we don't like people. So, of course, that's a myth. We all need uh, connection. But we do prefer the deep conversations and we do live in our heads. And so it's not that we don't like people, but we do sometimes have to make an effort to get outside of our heads sometimes and have those conversations that will connect so that we can have the deeper conversations sometimes. It's not always you're not always going to have deep conversations, but I think that that's a really important distinction that a lot of people don't understand. It's not that we don't like people, but we do gravitate to our inner world, which, we have a lot of great ideas in there. We like to talk about deep things, but sometimes that's hard to connect if we stay there and don't try to make these connections. Like you said, get out of our heads sometimes.
yeah, yeah.
So I always say if they need it. So how do you help an introvert gain confidence if they need it? Because I definitely don't want to promote that myth that all introverts lack confidence because I know some very confident introverts. But what if they don't have confidence? How can you help them gain
Yeah,
that?
if you have to do something that's new for you and you don't have the confidence, usually you don't have the confidence because you still are thinking there's something wrong with you,
Uh,
that your weaknesses, the quote, weaknesses are weaknesses instead of your strengths. You haven't really gone through that process. So, so what I like to say is that, if you feel a mission to do something and you're like, I just don't have it in me, you you are probably carrying around a lot of negative beliefs about yourself, and that takes time to process. But and you don't have time. Okay, if you don't have time, you got to get the confidence because you got to move forward. And really, confidence builds when you take action, when you move forward. So how do you take that first action when you don't have any confidence? I claim that you do have confidence in something. There is something right now that you do have confidence in. It could be your mission. It feels like God given and you care about it. It could be a skill set, a particular skill set that you have under your belt where you do feel confident. Start there. Or it could be your higher power that you do have confidence and faith in. Start there. And then you can strategize a way of taking a very comfortable step. I one of my themes is the tortoise and the hare, Aesop's fable, and the extroverts are the hare. They just jump into things and jump over obstacles and run around, and just go when they get the idea. And the tortoises are the cautious ones. They move forward too. And in the fable, they win the race. Not that there's a race, but and they take a step and then they look around. How did that go? What do I need to tweak? What's my next step? Take the next step. So you can adopt the tortoise approach and take small, cautious, well thought out, comfortable steps, anchoring yourself in whatever that thing is that you do have confidence in this moment. And like I said, confidence then builds on itself. Once you do something and it works out, then you have more confidence and you sort of, go from there. And you get that momentum.
Yeah, and, in the story, of course, the tortoise wins the race, so
Yeah.
and I like that one. It's we do have some gifts, and they're gonna look different from the other person's gifts, but
Mhm.
they are our gifts.
Right. And
So
don't think you have to jump into things the way an extrovert does and live out loud about it. That's natural for them, but you do what's natural for you.
we've talked a little bit about, making time for our gifts. What's your advice on that? Like, what is it that we need to use our gifts and our creativity as introverts? How do we make a space for that?
Well, you have to claim it. It is crucial though, because your best gift is the thinking, whether it's keeping your organization from tanking because everybody's following some, you know, harebrained um, extrovert idea that isn't well formed. But so you do need to, claim that space and honor. It's part of honoring yourself. If you honor yourself, you are going to find a way to do your day and your life that is balanced and workable for you, and realize that that is crucial for you. You can't be on go mode all the time, that you're not wired for that.
Yeah, I love that. Build your life in a way that uses your strengths and also honors your needs. That's perfect.
Yes, I would like to see the workplace accommodate introverts
Yeah,
likewise.
we're gonna keep working towards that.
Yeah,
Summer, this time has gone by really fast. We've talked about a lot of great things. Is there anything else that you want to talk about that we haven't yet?
you have drained my brain.
Okay, I know we'll probably both take a break after.
Yeah, I do. The kind of the key takeaway for me for people is that there's nothing wrong with you, and so instead of trying to embrace the extrovert ideal, be radical. My favorite word for introverts, radical. Be radical about living and working in ways that honor your introvert nature.
Yeah, well said. I like that. Be radical.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, Summer, again, we've talked about a lot of great things. If people want to know more about you, where can they connect with you?
Three ways really. For like introverted women who are like solopreneurs or women in corporate or leaders in the workplace. I work one to one virtually with them, and they can connect with me on my website, successforintrovertedwomen.com. And there's a coaching tab they can click on to book a conversation with me. And I also collaborate with DEI and HR specialists, and I can provide train the trainer help to help eliminate that unconscious bias between introverts and extroverts, which is so crucial for teams, especially. And people can reach me there through my other website, businessbreakthroughtraining.com, where they can schedule a consultation and we can explore how we might collaborate. And please connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm Summer Turner one, Roman numeral one. And I mentioned to you, David, earlier that I am working on an ebook on kind of no sweat presentations for people who are. A lot of introverts are great presenters because they can prepare and they don't have to do small talk and all that. But a lot of them aren't, and even some non-introverts are freaked out about doing public presentations. So, if you want to be notified about this when I'm done with it, you can message me on LinkedIn and just give me your email address and I'll send it to you. And that might help me actually get it done.
All right. Yes, I will put all of that in the show notes. And yeah, let us know when your book is ready. It sounds like it's going to
Okay.
be great and very helpful.
It's going to be an upside down book where I'd go start with the meat, because if you're reading it, you're freaked out and you're needing it like for next week, right? So I'm planning to start with that, and then the biology, and then my story, and whatever. So it's going to be an upside down book. I love just in time training, and this is a just in time book.
Yeah, that sounds great. So I'm looking forward to it. Anyway, thanks again, Summer. It's been a wonderful conversation.
Thank you, David. I enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I look forward to further connecting with you. Reach out at david@quietandstrong.com or check out the quietandstrong.com website, which includes blog posts and links to social media channels. Send me topics or guests you would like to see on the show. If you're interested in getting to know yourself better, there's now a free Type Finder personality assessment on the Quiet and Strong website. This free assessment will give you a brief report, including the 4-letter Myers-Briggs code, and you can also have the option of purchasing the full report if you'd like to learn more. I'll add a link to the show notes. So many great things about being an introvert, and we need those to be understood. Get to know your introverted strengths and needs and be strong.